I accidentally nearly walked in front of Eddie Izzard as he's run into the Jonathan Ross studios. It was like mad. The first series was pretty bad, really, if I'm being honest. I think we nearly got sent home, true story, after about 3-4 weeks because it wasn't working, the voiceover. Sometimes Laura would notice me like doing like essentially a gig in the kitchen while we were making dinner, and she'd be like, you need to go on Twitch or like do a gig or something.
This is Show on the Road, brought to you by Auto Trader. We're driving famous faces on a personalised road trip, visiting the places that help shape them and hearing how the locations turn them into who they are today. We've matched each celebrity with a car chosen specifically for them. So, join me, Alex Legui, as we get this show on the road. Chances are you'll know my next guest the moment you hear him speak. He has one of the most recognisable voices in the country, thanks to his amazing, very funny commentary on hit reality show Love Island. It is, of course, Iain Stirling, who is a critically acclaimed comedian. So we're very lucky that he had some time to take a drive with us, and we're about to visit some of the London haunts that have been key locations in Iain's life. And I am so excited to show him this car. It's small, classic, 1972 classic, with an amazing modern twist. So we've matched Iain with this MGB GT that has been fully converted to an electric by Frontline. MG's played a huge part in Iain's life, so I'm very excited to show him this little lady and see what he thinks.
Oh, wow. Oh, she's a classic. So much smaller than I remember. Look at it.
What do you think?
This is amazing.
Isn't it?
Oh my God, my dad will be so jealous that I get to have a go in this. The colour's lovely as well. And I even remember the fold down boot at the back.
Yeah.
Has it technically got some seats in the back? Have you?
Well,
I mean, you'd have to be double jointed really to use them. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. It really is.
and it's fully electric.
This is fully electric?
Yeah.
Oh, is it like a rebuild?
Yeah.
Who would have thought you'd have saw the day? Look at it. I just love it. It's just, the shape's just timeless. Should I try and get it?
Yeah.
Look at it. Oh my God.
I think we can safely say that he likes it.
Oh, it's got a lot of legroom.
Surprisingly, right? Okay, let's get going, shall we?
Can I just say, as someone that's not from London originally, London in the sunshine, especially when you're near the water, with all the big buildings, I will be 90 and I will still be blown away by the fact that I live here.
Yeah, agreed.
Every time I go over any of the bridges, which I always sort of recognise from the EastEnders bird's eye view, I just always think, imagine living here. Like, I used to I came here once with my family on like a holiday. I remember thinking, you must be so it must be so mad to live here. Yeah. It still blows my mind that I do. It's incredible. And they just think everything through so much, and there's all the skyline's just so iconic, like Oxo Tower, Gherkin, all those sorts of things. You just imagine you can just casually wander past them. And then down on the embankment as well here, I spent so much time down this way when I was when I first moved to London anyway, which is wild. Literally walking, this is the walk up from the tube station, so I remember this walk, doing it so many times.
And I guess this is because you'd be walking to comedy venues, right?
Yes, so there's a load round here on the embankment. One of the boats is called the Tattersall Castle.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think it is still called this. They do weekend gigs on Fridays and Saturdays called the Boat Show. And it was run at the time, and I think it might still be, it was run by a guy called Christian Knowles, who's a brilliant guy. He represents Mickey Flanagan and stuff, and he's really big, but in the comedy world, but lovely lad. And I came down here, and when you first start doing stand-up and comedy and stuff, you have to do tryout spots where you do 5-10 minutes unpaid. And I'd done a spot down here. I'd been gigging in Scotland for a year, and I came down here and done a gig at the Tattersall Castle. and it went really well. And then he came up to me after the gig, and he was like, he went, I can't not pay you for that. And he gave me like 30 quid. Yeah. And that was like the first time I've like ever been paid to do comedy. And it was like mad. It was just absolutely mad. And for a man that high up in the industry or whatever to do that. And then he booked me for weekends, and getting weekends is quite hard. So I ended up doing weekends there.
Wow.
Long before I was doing any paid work anywhere else, which sometimes didn't necessarily work out.
So you grew up in Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, yeah. It's the capital of Scotland, Edinburgh. I don't know if you know that about it. A lot of
Glaswegians.
A lot of people think it's Glasgow. Glasgow
Yeah.
is actually, it's got a larger population, Glasgow. I'm quite apologetic and sort of unsure of myself in many ways, like aspects of my personality and myself.
Mm-hmm.
But then the sort of weirdly, the Scottish thing is this thing that I'm incredibly unfailingly proud of. So it's really nice to have that string to your bow.
Yeah.
I like telling people that I'm Scottish, I like talking about Scotland. I love coming from a country where if you meet another person with your accent in another country, it sort of feels like this really exciting things happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if English people have that quite as much. Like if you meet a Scottish if you meet a Scottish accent in like Spain, you sort of are almost expecting it. Ultimately, I think if someone Scottish finds success, then they are Scottish, a Scottish success story, which I quite like. Like, do you know what I mean? Like if you comedians, Kevin Bridges, for example, is quite obviously from Glasgow and the surrounding areas, but everyone in Scotland just sees him as like this Scottish guy that's done good. Billy Connolly.
Yes.
Andy Murray.
Yes, that's
technically from near enough Edinburgh. He supports Hibs. That does it for me. All Scottish. So that is a thing that we're all very proud of.
What was little Iain like?
What was I like? Sort of a bit odd, quiet, I guess. Very sporty. I love sport, but I couldn't sit and watch it. Like I love my golf, and like if I was watching golf on telly, for whatever reason, I'd have to watch it through the window while I was in the garden, like hitting a ball around, because I couldn't.
Yeah.
So quite active, I guess. Done lots of different things. Sort of jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing.
So you weren't like the class comedian?
Absolutely not, no. I think it was, I suppose now I know that I'm into sort of like doing stand-up and that, obviously. I've discovered that I like sort of like performing and that sort of thing, but that really wasn't an option where I grew up. So like, just where I grew up, people wouldn't be into like the music I was into, or like, you know, dress like how I would want to dress and do the things I wanted to do. I sort of like rock music and pop, that sort of like early noughties pop punk, like Offspring and Blink-182 and all that sort of stuff. That just wasn't a vibe in my school.
Right.
So I just sort of like never really had anyone in my school that I was like, oh, I like this thing. So I don't think I met my sort of like tribe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Until university. Then I got to university, and then then I discovered people that like to work, study hard, and drink booze. So then I met all those people, and then I sort of feel like, then I was like, oh, I can just be myself now. And then as a result, I got into performing and doing all that because I felt confident enough to do it. So.
But you didn't do performing at uni, you did law.
I don't think there was a big game plan with it. I think it's just one of those things, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same, like I basically didn't like anything at school enough to do it. There was no subject at school that I thought, oh my God, I want to do this 5 days a week every day. And then I just so happened to have the sort of exam results that meant I could do like law.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be mad not to do law. And no one in my family had been to uni or anything. So it's quite exciting to sort of be the first person from your family to not only go to university, but then for that to be law school.
Yeah.
It felt sort of too good an opportunity to pass up, sort of thing.
You were the bright one.
Yeah, well, I think it was more just my mum and dad just encouraged that aspect of me. Like where my mum and dad grew up, it was sort of, you left school when you could to get a job. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah, of course.
Education wasn't looked on with the same importance. I think it was more. My mum and dad are 100% more intelligent than me. Jesus, I'm a borderline idiot like sometimes. My sister's definitely more intelligent than me.
So how did you go from law at uni to comedy?
At Edinburgh, they have the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yes.
the biggest part of the Fringe Festival now is the comedy. So like the comedy side of it is more than half, I think now, or at least a good third plus. So I went to see loads of comedy shows all through the summer every year when I was really young, and I'd done a few. Like wrote my own again because like there was no like theatre groups that where I grew up, man. Like none of that. Do you know what I mean? Nobody was like practicing their plays on the estate or anything.
Right.
So like me and my mate just wrote some sketches. We were sort of obsessed with like Little Britain and Monty Python and stuff at the time, and we just put on some shows at the Fringe, and that gave me my first taste of it. But I never knew what I could do with that. And then when I went to uni, there was like an improv class thing called the Edinburgh Improverts. So I joined that, and then from there, a few of those guys were doing stand-up, so then I went to a few stand-up gigs, and then I sort of assumed, again, even back then, because I didn't know, I thought stand-up, you just were like, I just assumed that like, you were a professional comedian, you'd done comedy. I sort of didn't think there was like, do you mean open mic nights and places you could train? So then I found all them, and then I went to Norway in my third year of uni, and then I couldn't do like improv and stuff, so I started writing stand-up a lot, and then when I came back from my final year of uni, I started doing stand-up. I just had written all this material.
That's it there, isn't it?
That's the Tattersall right there, the Tattersall Castle.
Huh.
Look, they've even got a little poster up for the comedy, and it's right in the bottom at the front of the boat. That's where it is. And then sometimes if a wave hit or something, literally during the gig, a wave might hit the boat and you'd sort of like rock. So I can't remember who it was. It might have been Charlie Baker, one of the regular hosts there. He used to sort of say a reference of like, it was the only gig in the country where like the more drunk you get, the more steady you got on your feet. Like if you were so drunk, you would sort of naturally counteract the sort of sway of the boat. So that was it. But yeah, honestly, I think that's probably up there, like easily the top 2 or 3 venues the amount of times I've gigged in there.
Who at the time then, when you were starting off, would have been your sort of comic idols or influences?
Russell Howard was like, Russell Howard sort of, I don't think he done it intentionally, but he sort of single-handedly led and he'll hate the term, because it's not really him, but there's this sort of, in the comedy world, there's this sort of phenomenon known as like the t-shirt comedian. Because like before Russell Howard, there was never someone that was like young and optimistic and like, sort of kind of good looking in a sort of like geeky, quirky way, and he would like wear like ripped jeans and his trainers were a bit scuffed, and he'd come on and do his stuff. So yeah, Russell sort of gave birth to this sort of like generation of like, I guess it's one of those things, that's why like representation is so important on television, because for us it was like all these, as a young guy, you would just look at me like, oh, that's like me, and I want to do comedy like that. I never knew comedy could be sort of like, I love this thing, and I like. So yeah, Russell was massive.
That's interesting. Like, it's accessible for people.
Yeah, well, that's why you need it. That's why you need it. You need to see yourself. You need to see yourself echoed in like whatever you do. It's like really, really important. But then like before that Russell was the person I thought, oh, I could do something like that. But like in terms of like influences, it's pretty like, especially being from Scotland, it's obviously like Billy Connolly's sort of like, he's just undeniable. Like he's just the greatest.
Were you nervous before? Or and are you now?
No, not now, if I'm being completely honest. Like, it's nearly 15 years. Like, it's sort of, if anything, I wish I could get more nervous, because I might actually do like some more writing and stuff before I do gigs. Like, there's certain gigs I get nervous for. There's ones that are going to be quite tricky, or like ones that are filmed, or like if they're like particularly quiet or particularly busy. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, it's like a job, like a really fun job. So I don't get that nervous. At the start, like, I get really bad. Like, you'd have it all day. You'd wake up in the morning and be like, I've got a gig. It was like hang over your head. It sort of made me realise I sort of messed up uni in my final year because I fell in love with stand-up and I was doing it every night. But then actually thinking about it, like, even on a subconscious level, my brain, having a gig in the evening, that takes up so much of your mental capacity when you're first gigging. So like the fact I was in lectures and the whole time in my head I was going, oh no, what if this gig goes badly? What if it goes well? Like, what am I going to say to people? So I think there is a lot of that, like the sort of low level of like stress caused by knowing I was gigging that night probably did have an impact as well on like how well I could like read things and learn things and stuff.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, that's the excuse I'm going to use to my mum why I got to do too.
Are you still waiting for that sit-down
conversation
where she's like, now, darling, why didn't you continue down that route?
I'm still waiting for the letter from Edinburgh Uni going, we made a huge error, it's a 2-1.
Yeah.
Oh, the Parliament.
Such a cool building.
Mad that we're just driving past, but do you know what I mean? That's what I think about London. We're just driving past Parliament.
Yeah.
It's like mad.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
The flags are out. Whenever I see flags, it just makes me realise how dumb I am. Like, I don't know.
What? No, what's
Any
that
of
one
them.
there? That looks like a Pokemon up there.
That looks
I
like
think.
Pokemon. That's Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Bahamas, Cyprus.
Well, you know more than
Nigeria,
I do.
Malaysia. Oh my God, Cameroon.
How are you doing this?
It's because I play
Wales.
FIFA a lot. That's not Wales. Pakistan, Ireland, South Africa. Oh my God, New Zealand,
Listen to you.
Australia, Canada, Britain. This is incredible. But the only problem is you can't see the flag, so I could just be saying any country I want.
Yeah, and I don't know any of them.
Where's
so.
Aubameyang from? That's his one. I can't remember now. Oh my God, that was exhilarating. That's the most intelligent I think I've ever felt. I'm not even.
There's
joking.
no one assessing you. I can't assess you. You
No,
could
but
have
I'm being
just
very,
got
I'm
them
being
all
very,
wrong.
I'm being very honest. I'd like to make that very clear to everyone. I'm being incredibly honest.
What is the atmosphere like backstage? Like when you're at a gig where there's a few of you?
Yeah. Now it's very much more workmanlike, but in a lovely way. Like everyone sort of arrives just before their gig, and they normally have to get home. And also, I'm at the age where people are now going home for they've got to get home to relieve the babysitter and stuff like that, or just to walk the dog's been home for too long.
Times
or whatever.
have changed.
I know. We used to just go out party.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I could do with a lie in. Actually, it'd be lovely. So yeah, the vibe's pretty cool, pretty chill. Actually, I do feel sorry sometimes. An occasional punter will especially nowadays, we'll get backstage, especially when we're getting out of town. So there's 3 or 4 comics out of town, so we're all trying to work out how to get drive back or what hotel we're staying in. And a drunk audience member will get into the backstage area. They might find it accidentally. Sometimes we're literally behind a curtain.
Yeah.
Or they'll just walk into the room by mistake, or maybe they've just drunk and they've burst in. And I think they're expecting 7 jesters juggling balls and sort of having a laugh and shotting tequila, and they just get 4 guys discussing how you pay your toll road fine and what M road's quickest back down to London and stuff. So they are a bit oh, this isn't what I was expecting.
What, you're not all funny all the time?
No, some of us aren't even funny half the time, to be honest.
Is it much harder now because you have to be so much more careful with what you do and don't say?
It's difficult, right? Because do you have to be more careful? I don't really think you do. I think you get pulled up on stuff more by people that don't like it. But then those people just have a voice now,
Yeah.
as in the same people didn't like your stick back then.
Yeah, that's so true. They just didn't have a platform for it.
I would say I am more offence averse now, but that's only because I wouldn't want to put something out that I couldn't stand by because I know people will pull me up on it, and that isn't actually necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think this whole you can't say anything these days is actually nonsense, and you can say whatever the hell you like. Literally, you can say whatever the hell you like, but you've got to accept that people might object to that, and they're allowed to say whatever the hell they like. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think there's the way I look at it is there's one of 2 arguments. Is you either are willing to take on that criticism, and then you also make sure that what you're joking about, you can justify in your own head, and you can justify so you can put those justifications forward.
Mm-hmm. Are there any things that you look back on, not necessarily like this where it's offensive, but any gigs where you've looked back on and been like, why the f did I say that?
Oh, hundreds. I've done when I was new, I was an idiot, and it's I've done I've done you do these corporate bookings or private bookings, black tie events.
Yeah.
And I've come out swearing, using a ridiculous language, and getting told to get off the stage after 5 minutes because I'm just what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Just 'cause I didn't know any better, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely bits of material that I don't stand by now, 100%. But I guess times change, and that's fine. I think that's fine. I think what I would love is the one thing I think is when you talk, I think offence in comedy or anything like that. I think the biggest issue for me anyway at the minute is not that you can't say anything, because I don't believe that's true. Like, I'm a straight white guy. Like, believe me, I can. I mean, we're pretty bulletproof at the minute. As much as some people like to think that's not the case, but like we're a very privileged area.
Yeah.
But what I would like to happen is like there just to be a more open, to be able to allow. At the minute, arguments don't allow for like nuance in the discourse. Like, this is why we've got such a polarised, especially on like social media, like such a polarised standpoint on so many issues at the minute, because you sort of feel that you've got to pick a team. Like, a comedian is either offensive and cancelled, or you can say whatever the hell you like and you're a bastion of free speech. Where I'm like, is there not a grey area?
Yeah.
Is there not a middle ground where people can say what they like, but they have to be pulled up, held to account, and then maybe go, do you know what, now you've made your point, I'm not going to say that way anymore. That just feels like a much more useful discourse to me, rather than like cancelled.
Yeah.
Or a comedy legend, someone that's saying it like it is. Because also, I don't think there's a comedian alive that wants to be known, that definitely doesn't want to be cancelled, and they certainly don't want to be like the bastion of free speech and known as like the one person that can say offensive things.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be that person either.
No.
So yeah, I hope as social media moves on and algorithms and all that sort of stuff, we can open the world up to like, this guy does not know what lane he's in, does he?
No, not at all.
He does not know what lane he's in. And now, come on buddy. And he's now going to the other lane. He was right, middle, left. Unlucky.
Got this. You got this.
Yeah, so I just think hopefully we'll get to a stage, once there's been this overcorrection, we'll get to a place where like, yeah, and so basically an answer, the 10-minute summation of the answer to your question is, you can say what you want, but you've got to accept the fact that there's a chance you will be pulled up on what you say, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
And you've got to decide there and then whether you are in the wrong or if you're going to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at, basically.
That makes sense, doesn't it? What was it like when you very first started, or when you very first had a heckler? Can you remember that, like, moment of like,
Well, hecklers are funny ones, right? Because it's actually quite a rare thing to happen. But as a comedian, it's like the first thing anyone, like, if you ever meet a comedian in the street, don't say this only because it's boring. If you want to seem a bit more interesting, the number one thing anyone says to me goes, I'm going to come to one of your shows and I'm going to heckle. Which is, if you think about it, and they're not being nasty, but what a weird thing to say to someone. Because that's like going, what do you do for a living? Someone's like, I'm a plumber. And you're going to go, well, I'm going to come to your job and take a shit in your toilet.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird, right? Yeah. Sort of it's weird to go, I'm a nurse. Oh, well, I'm going to come to your... I'm going to come to your work and, do you know what I mean, spread a disease. So, but then also hecklers can be really fun. So, like, but the annoying thing is most of the time hecklers are someone that's like quite drunk, and you'll just say like a city, like you'll mention like Coventry, and someone will go, because they're also from there. So, most heckler stories are just that, really, just like people being drunk. But I've had some absolute beauties. Like when I filmed my special at Alexandra Palace, Ali Pali in London, actually, this lad went to the toilet, but he was like being really sweet. But the funny thing was because it's being filmed, we had to sort of stop the filming until he came back in the room because it disturbed the gig, him leaving. But I didn't want it to start and have to stop. But he then felt bad for disturbing the gig, so he was waiting outside.
No.
So then we were waiting for like 10 minutes, and eventually some people from the venue like ran round the venue and found him and brought him back in.
That's brilliant. So did you have that like whole room of awkwardness?
Well, I was like, we've been waiting for you.
What's this dude doing?
And I was like, he's back, and like the whole room gave him like a standard debate. Like, and then this guy, imagine this guy, what a night. He's just been. He thought he was coming to a comedy gig. He's ended up going for a wee and then come back to like 1,500 people applauding him in the room. Like.
And he's made it to the special.
And you can see it's on the special. You can watch it. It's literally him walks out.
Talk to me about Taskmaster.
Oh yes, please. My favourite thing I've ever done, probably.
What a cool show.
Yeah, what an amazing thing to do. Like, I sort of my only regret, and it's very small, is that I'd done Taskmaster. It was in this sort of real height of Love Island blowing up. So like I'd gone from sort of doing like 60-seater rooms that I couldn't really fill to like gigging most like some evenings but not really, and then having like the day to myself, to like going on this tour, selling it out, going to bigger rooms, people wanting to interview you, do podcasts, telly shows, like not a criticism, but I mean then Taskmaster was this mad thing that I fitted in around all that madness.
Wow.
And now looking back on it and knowing what a special show it was and what an amazing time it was, I wish I'd had a bit more time to like the day after I filmed Taskmaster just to think, I filmed Taskmaster yesterday. That was
actually
great.
be in it, experience it
whereas
properly.
it sort of felt like, which I think it's reflected in the way I'd done a lot of the tasks. You can tell that like I am in a very stressful point of my life when that show is happening.
1 foot out.
Yeah, so I'm sort of always a bit like just run into things, and like I'm not very like measured. I don't take my time and think about things. I just sort of rush in, because I think at that point in my life, everything was like, we need to keep up with this. This mad things happened, and I was sort of adjusting to that. So I think if I'd done Taskmaster now, a few years older, it'd be a different thing. But that is such a small thing, because I mean, just what a show. Like, you would just like 10, 12 days of your year, you would just go to the house, you would sit in a room on your own. They would come in, they'd say, right, come and do this task. Alex would give you a task, you'd do it. You go back into the room, they'd set up another one, do the task, back into the room. And it was just that.
Wow.
And then that would be over the course of like 6 months. And the best thing about that show is, when you watch the tasks being done back, not only are you watching how other people done them, but because you do like 50, 60 in a series, you probably remember like 3 or 4 that you think you've done well.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, you completely like, oh God, I done that. Like, you completely forget. And the funniest thing is, the 3 or 4 that you think you've done well, you watch 2 other people do it, and you realise, I've absolutely... I think there was one we done where we had to like find a horseshoe or something, and I managed to run around the house and find a horseshoe in the house. And I remember thinking, I've got 5 points, I've absolutely smashed it, I found it. And then when they showed the video, the first 2 people they showed was Joe and Paul, who were on my series, and they noticed that there was a horseshoe hanging from above our head.
No.
So within 7 seconds I realised, not only has it not gone well, but I know they've kept my video to the end because I'm the idiot that didn't spot the thing that was right in front of me.
You do a lot on Twitch, don't you?
My friend and comedian Alfie Brown described it the best, but it's basically long-form social media, meaning it's just a live streaming platform, so you can do whatever you want. The reason I like it is because you're live for an elongated amount of time, so I think it's the most true representation of yourself.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. People actually get to see you, and
good
probably
and bad.
you get to be able to just be you, good and bad, and,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Instagram, I feel like you've just got to make everything like look so nice. That's changing a bit, but do you know what I mean? Your reels, you've got to make things a reel and put music to it and make it perfect. And then, yeah, with TikTok, with Twitch, with Twitch. I'm getting so old, man. With Twitch, you can just log on and be yourself. With the Twitch twatches. Yeah, I just felt you could just be yourself. It's really nice. I like it. I really like it. It's my favourite platform. The only problem with it is a live streaming platform, and it's quite a lot of technology to get it up and running. The main game I play is FIFA, and like sometimes I'm really chill and like sort of articulate and talk about some like sort of like stuff that's personal to me. Other times I'm just an idiot 35-year-old man that should know better, screaming at pixels on a screen because the game's not gone the right way.
Do you find, as a result of who you are and what you do, that there is a sort of a social pressure to be that version of you when you're out and about at dinner parties or whatever? Yeah,
well, I suppose that's another element of like keeping the right people around you. Like, so now my closest friends and family obviously wouldn't really give a damn about that sort of thing. And whereas in the past I might have gone somewhere else, people would be like, oh yeah, be that guy, and I might have tried to do it because I didn't want to let people down or because I want to impress people. Now I would sort of maybe say something like, do you know what, not today, mate, I can't, I'm just having a sort of chill one, thanks very much. I think it's quite important to like be able to I don't feel that need to like you're never going to impress everyone. I think that's something you learn as you get older. So I'm still not easy, but I've become much more accepting of that fact. I think. Yeah.
I wonder if the pressure is higher as well as a comedian.
Well, I suppose so. I definitely find that like the most nervous I've ever been is like doing like best men speeches and stuff. Because I suppose one, people think you're going to be funny, but two, it's that sort of thing that people are like, oh, I bet you're going to like destroy him. And like when I done my best friend Greg's best man speech, I was like, me and Greg have been friends for so long, and that's just not really our vibe. So I was like, I'm not really going to do that because I know he wouldn't want that. I sort of like his family and all that. I wouldn't want to cause anyone any. So yeah, it is. I don't think it's a huge thing. But I definitely think comedian more than like, there's other jobs you wouldn't expect the person to do their job at the dinner party.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
But like with comedy, there's some weird thing where people go on then.
Yeah.
But I do get it, don't get me wrong, I absolutely get it. Like if someone tells me they're a magician and we're at a dinner party, I absolutely would love a card trick. I would love one.
That's true.
But it's not always the right time and place, is it really?
No.
But I've always had that weird thing where I'm constantly thinking to myself, this forever. Could I do this forever? And I've just never been good enough at anything else, really. I think that's the difference, because you find a lot in stand-up. You'll get people who do stand-up who are really great, and they'll do it for like 2 years, and then when they've got to start to like drive from like, Edinburgh to Durham for like 60 quid.
Yeah.
They just start going, I don't want this to be my life. Whereas, like, I think that's the difference. Like, people always say that, oh, do you feel like you're the funniest guy at your school or whatever like that? And I'm never that. But I think the actual comedians that stay the distance aren't the ones that just think they're funny. It's the ones that, like, need to be funny. Yeah. Like, we sort of want that attention and want that, what's the word?
Validation?
Validation, yeah. Basically, that's it. That's what... Yeah. We need it. We crave it, as opposed to being like, oh, it's just, I'm quite a funny guy and this is a laugh, because it's just, those people don't tend to stick it out.
And it's not a big enough motivation.
No. And also, if you're funny down the pub, just be funny down the pub. Don't come to the King's Theatre, Glasgow, and do it there.
So we are on the outskirts of Shepherd's Bush. What does this mean to you?
Shepherd's Bush was my original, like, sort of stomping ground. Because when I graduated university, I've luckily landed a job on Kids TV, the home of which is sort of around the Shepherd's Bush area. So Shepherd's Bush was like basically the first place I properly moved to. This is like the first place I called home in London. And it's like the first place I ever lived in London that had sort of like, what I find is like quintessentially London, in the sense that it's got like really old, small, niche, weird shops that you don't know how they like financially exist. And it's also got the Shepherd's Bush Empire and like Westfield Shopping Centre and all these big massive things that are so quintessentially London, mixed in with like little small Chinese takeaways and like laundrettes, and you've got like high-rise council flats next to like really expensive like central London townhouses and stuff, and it's just this like mad eclectic melting pot that sort of, it was when I went, I love this, because that's like me, like it's sort of like where I grew up, as in the middle of this big city of stuff. So yeah, I've always felt like, yeah, it doesn't know what it is, Shepherd's Bush, and I'm sort of feel like I'm like that a little bit as well.
And we're about to pass the sewing machine shop.
Yes.
I mean, why?
This is one of those places that genuinely I remember most, because I used to live in Shepherd's Bush with two men, Dan Clarkson and Phil Fletcher. And Phil Fletcher is a puppeteer, still is, and he mainly plays Hacker the Dog on CBBC. That's like that's what he's most famous for. But I remember his excitement when he realised we lived next to a sewing shop, because he builds puppets as well. That's what he does as a living. So like he'd go in that sewing shop all the time, and I remember just thinking, the first time I saw that sewing shop, I was like, how can a sewing shop financially survive in this sort of like fairly central London location. And then he saw it and just thought, what a genius thing to have. And then we lived like 2 doors up from that sewing shop, and we had like so many like funny memories of like nights out. Like I remember like my single days, because he builds puppets, we always had puppets in my house.
Wow.
So like in my single days, I remember I met a girl, and she was like, we went for a bit of dinner, we were coming back to mine for like a drink, like 10 at night, 9 at night, something like that. And we walk into the flat, and my friend Phil is there with like 5 other members of BBC, and they've all got puppets on, and they're all watching Muppets: A Christmas Carol, and they're just like acting out the film. And this girl like genuinely must have thought I was like a member of like a cult or something. She just like blasted it on, she just like left, and I just ended up hanging out with these nutters and these puppets. So that sewing shop's sort of like really closely tied to like those sorts of memories. Look, Olympic sewing machines, there it's there, where many iconic puppets have been built there. And then if you literally go, look, there's this church, there's this hairdresser's, and then boom, that's our flat. That's how close we were to. We must be the only people who live near to a sewing machine who actually regularly needed sewing machines every day. That's my old flat. We're in the top floor. Incredible stuff.
What a cool place to live.
It was really good, actually, and there's a Chinese takeaway near here that's mind-blowingly brilliant.
That's important to have.
So important to have.
Distance.
And a few decent pubs as well, obviously, up on the green. Shepherd's Bush Green's great for pubs. Defectors Weld, great. And then there was Ginlick, which is the old converted public toilets.
Ginlick was legendary.
Christian Knowles, the guy that booked me at that Tattersall Castle, he ran comedy gigs in there. And when he booked me to do a gig there, one of the first ones I ever done was with, I remember, this is where you're like, London's mad. Because I used to just do gigs in Scotland with like other Scottish acts and, you know, whatever. And then the first Ginlick one I done, Harry Hill headlined it. He done a ventriloquist act, actually, weirdly, with a puppet. So, loving it. But yeah, he done, that was the first thing he ever done. So I was like, this is amazing.
For people listening who don't know Ginlick, I'm assuming it's not open anymore, although I don't know for certain. It's a converted underground toilet, isn't it? Right by Shepherd's Bush
Station. It's an old public toilet that I think it was part of the old Shepherd's Bush station that they then converted into a sort of bar and nightclub. But it was mad busy back in the day.
And just very artsy. I always had really interesting conversations down there.
Yeah, I don't you'd never remember them, but you'd have them.
No. So we're now heading up to the BBC TV studios. What were you doing before you started with the BBC?
Literally university. I got the job at the BBC while I was at uni.
Really?
Yeah. So like I had my last exam on a Thursday. I moved to London on Sunday, and I'd done my first bit of telly on the Monday. Here, I was actually late, so the first day I ever done, the first day of live TV, they said like, you're on camera at 9 o'clock, but they meant live. Now, I've only ever had like normal jobs, so after that meant like get there at 9, and I think I was like 3-4 minutes late, so I missed my first ever live link on telly, because obviously at 8 o'clock, they were like, it's live at 9, meaning they were like, get here for like 7:30, hair and makeup, round your script, but I didn't know any of that stuff. So I just showed up at 3 minutes past 9 and I missed the first link.
Wow.
It was a bit of a disaster, really. But then they sort of realised, maybe we should have told this 21-year-old kid that's literally 4 days ago was sitting his like corporate law exam, how telly works. But yeah, and then like honestly, I look back at this time so fondly, and I'm so fortunate that I got to work in this place, like walking through, like there's like the donut, which if you're my generation was like the round building that like Enlive and Kicking, the little bouncy ball spun round at the end and flew up, and there's loads of funny, like there's a little walkway still there that when Alan Partridge didn't get his second series and he's walking down going, you're all on the BBC gravy train, I wish I was, with his wheel of cheese on a fork. That's literally that little road down there. Although what is it now? It's like a really posh, like coffee shop or whatever now. But this used to always be buildings, and that iconic television centre sign. Like the fact I got to walk, and this used to have a massive gate across it. You'd have to tap your BBC pass, and every day I'd tap my BBC pass. And even young, I remember thinking how lucky I was that I get to come into this building like every day. And we used to be just up there. West Tower it was called. It's now been totally brought down. It all had asbestos in it at the end. So they had to like rip it all out. But yeah, I used to be in this building here, and then there, in the television centre in there. And I remember having like so many mad stories. Like once I like was coming out the lift of the bar, and we got rugby tackled by a floor manager, me and my friend Phil. And Eddie Izzard ran past as he was doing, like, remember he'd done his 50 marathons, and then he ran into Jonathan Ross, and like I accidentally nearly walked in front of Eddie Izzard as he'd run into the Jonathan Ross studios. It was like mad.
No. It is such a cool building.
It's so, honestly, it's so beautiful. And like, I think it's listed, so like, there's all this new building around it, but the actual circular BBC building's remained unchanged, so like, it's really cool that that's sort of, I love that I was like so ingrained in like such a big bit of history. Like, all the children in needs were there, obviously worked at BBC, so we would just wait after work, even though we didn't have the passes, because we'd be in the building. So then, like, as about 9 o'clock, so we're already in the building, we get to go to like children in need and comic relief, and just sort of like blag our way to like the bar areas and stuff. It was so nice. It was great.
Were there any parallels between like that TV work and the work you do now on Love Island?
Well, I guess it's like right into a spec, I guess. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, with kids' TV, you've got like the parameters of like what you can talk about and the language you can use and all that sort of stuff. And then I guess with Love Island, you've got to you've not got the visuals, and you've got to be very economic with your word usage, because you can only really write 2 lines. You've got to do a joke and tell the story of what's happening. So like they're both within quite strict like doing comedy within strict parameters. I feel like I've always done that, which is sort of quite mad. But yeah, so they are very different things.
Did you enjoy kids' TV?
Yeah, I loved it. Like, I really loved it. I sort of look back, and I think it was probably the best TV I made as well, because it was live every day. We were sort of left to our own devices. There's loads of clips online, like, that I was just really proud of. It would go wrong, and we'd always get a way around it, and no one was telling us what to do, really. We were sort of left at it. And me and Phil, who was Hacker the dog, we worked together for like every day, 5 days a week for like 3 years. So we sort of knew each other inside out by the end. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. It was a really fun time, actually. Really lucky to have started that way. It's great.
Do you write all of your script on Love Island?
Yeah, I write it with a guy called Mark, who's like a really cool guy. So I write it with Mark, and he actually came up with a format as well. So every year Love Island does well. It's like a little bit Brucey bonus for him as well. But yeah, we write it together. We've always written it. I was sort of, they didn't really ask me to write it at the start, but they also didn't really, at the start of Love Island, they just didn't really know what to do with me. And not in the sense that I just sort of showed up to Spain to record it. And that was only my job. But it felt mad to go all the way to Spain to record something for an hour to then go home. So, yeah, I ended up just going early and sitting with Mark, and me and Mark really got along, and then yeah, just recorded it all. So it was really like, it felt really nice. Like it felt we just made each other laugh. And then obviously the first series was pretty bad, really, if I'm being honest. I think we nearly got sent home. True story. After about 3-4 weeks, because it wasn't working, the voiceover. But then they sort of managed to keep us for whatever reason, and then after about 2-3 series, they were always really funny about us at the start, because we'd obviously do these lines of voiceover where we were like saying the show wasn't very good and it was a bit silly, and they were like, a voiceover can't do that. But then people seem to like it, so now they let us say whatever we want, really. So it was like quite a natural progression.
And do you find that when I don't know what the process is, but do you find that you see or get to know the cast and then think, oh yeah, this one's going to be a fun one this season? Or
we get to know them. We deliberately get to know them as we're getting to know the same as the viewers. I don't know anything about the show. Like, at time of recording, the show starts on Monday. I don't even know the names of the people or like what they're doing, and I'll only find out when I watch the episode, because I sort of want to find out about the cast in the same way I do as a punter does. I think that's really important. You could also say it's lazy, because it means I don't have to do any work beforehand, but I do think it's useful to, like, you know, it is definitely useful to be as much as a punter as possible.
I guess as well, like, times must have changed. I mean, do you still fly out to Spain? Or wherever it is? It's not always in Spain.
Yeah, I used to until very recently. I think, like a lot of people, I worked from home in lockdown, and it just became very apparent that was very doable. So then it felt like, especially because there's 2 of them a year now, it'd be like 4 months away from home, so it's just sort of like not really an option. Yeah, I used to. First 6 series, I went to South Africa, I went to Spain. It was great, really lovely. And I still go out now because obviously I know the team so well and we all get along so well. So we went out as a family, it was really cool, that was nice. Also, the mad thing is, like, I've lived in Spain for over a year of my life. I go for 2 months every year, and that was for like 7 years. So like I was literally 14 months of my life spent in Spain. But in very, well, short-ish, because it's 2 months, but like shortish dribs and drabs. It's mad.
I mean, technically you should speak Spanish.
I should be fluent. It's very, again, how very British of me that I actually don't speak a lick of Spanish despite being there for 14 months.
I bet you can order a beer though.
What? And that, yeah, 2. I know how to order 2, but I don't know how to order 1.
Is there anything that's happened on Love Island that didn't happen on the show, but you can tell us that we wouldn't have known?
An islander turning their phone back on after 2 months. If you think how many texts they had alone, which is just their friends, the day they appear on the show going, oh my God, I can't believe you're on the show. And they've had 2 months of like texts and calls. Like one guy that was on, I can't remember who it was, but their phone crashed 3 times as they were turning it back on because there was just so much like traffic going through their phone, it just literally crashed. So yeah, it was wild. So that's pretty cool. I think that'd be a cool thing, but obviously, who would want their phone filmed as they were turning it on for the first time in 2 months?
Yeah, that's
with
true.
With a mate sending some stupid text or whatever. So yeah, no, I see the final, which is really like mad, and like them interacting with the presenters and like just the way they're sort of like the reality of what's happening dawns on them is like really interesting. But in terms of like stuff that happens off in the show, there's not really been much. I mean, I'll see the occasional bit, but the annoying thing is obviously the stuff that doesn't make the edit is normally the most boring stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, yeah, I don't really see that much. I would like to see I'd like to see them spice up that final week, as in like maybe do some more coupley challenges. Like maybe, do you know what I mean? Like live like an actual couple. We've got the babies and you've got to meet the parents and all that, but I'd love them to like just have to like do each other's washing for or like, do you know, like even like set up, I don't know, like take a photo shoot to like announce the relationship, or like, no, like modern day things you've got to do. Do you know people soft launch their relationship now on like the internet?
Yeah.
Maybe they've got to like set up a soft launch for like announcing they're a couple and stuff.
Yeah.
I just think there's loads of interesting things you can do with a new couple that they don't really do on the show yet, which I'd like to see them doing. This is London's best kebab, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
I love it when they it's probably next to the best chicken and they just took the words off.
London best kebab. I think they've also had to say London best kebab for legal reasons, so it's not London's.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's
it's always freshly made. So your daughter has an Irish mother and a Scottish father. How important is it that she knows about her heritage?
I think it's nice when you've got little ones to like to give them like. I think being Scottish, I'm sort of very proud of my background anyway, so it's nice to instill that in your kids and stuff. So I think that is really important. I think it also helps them get a better understanding of what you're about, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that feels really nice as well. So yeah, it's really important to us actually, and we try to go back to like Ireland and Scotland as much as possible. Like it's also nice for the grandparents, nice for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, and like Scotland, I just love it. Like I do genuinely love it there. So like, I want the people closest to me. Laura as well. Like it's nice going up to Scotland so that Laura can see Scotland and meet like my friends from uni that I knew growing up and all the rest of it. So yeah, really important.
Do you see, is London home?
Yeah, it's a good question, and yeah, I would say so. I think basically the thing for me, I think, is like I probably thought there's a world in which like I would end up back in Edinburgh, back in Scotland, and then I think if I'd met an English person, I think that might have happened. But I think what happened was Laura obviously has such strong connections to Ireland and her family and everything, and then when she took me to Ireland, I like loved Ireland so much, and then I think she saw how great Scotland was. So I think we both maybe thought at some point we'd end up moving back to our own countries, but then it became this thing of like, well, we both love where we're originally from, so I don't think Laura knew that I probably couldn't go like to Ireland full time and she couldn't come to Scotland full time, so we just sort of had to strike up this deal where it was like, well, I guess London is the base that we can get to Scotland and Ireland from relatively easily. That was the general vibes. I feel like if either of us had met like an English person, we probably could have sold them, do you know what I mean, Dublin or Edinburgh as a place to live. But because Dublin, Edinburgh is so great, we were both like, all right, fair play, well, London. But then also we love London. Like I just love, like we've said before, like I love the mixture of people. And also, the funny thing about being in London is, you meet as many Irish people in London as you do in Dublin. There's such a melting pot here that, like, you see such an array of people. People always say to me like, oh, our nursery's all full of like, there's everything. So it's such a nice like mix. So I quite like being in and amongst that mix as well.
You were in London for lockdown, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Sort of madness, really. Me and Laura were in the house. It was such a, like, it's sort of weird, because, like, it was so tricky, and, like, obviously, as a stand-up, work sort of finished for, like, 2 years, really, because we are literally professional social gatherers, which obviously became very illegal, social gathering. So like, lots of my friends were out at work, and there was like lots of elements of it that were so tough for so many people. There was something about living through an era that you know will be like era defining. It's sort of funny actually doing things you're like, when you're like standing outside clapping the NHS thinking this will be in modern study textbooks not long from now. And I lived it. There's a nice stillness about it as well. Like the idea of having nothing to do that day, and actually knowing not only were you doing nothing that day, but the guilt-free knowledge of nobody was doing anything that day is like
so
sort
true.
of mad. There was a real calmness that came with that I still miss to this day.
Me
so
too.
yeah.
Did you find that you guys sort of slotted into a routine and stuff?
Yeah, I was doing Twitch. I was doing the Twitch thing, and then the most important thing about the Twitch thing was, one, it gave me an outlet for performing, because I remember, like, sometimes Laura would notice me, like, doing, like, essentially a gig in the kitchen while we were making dinner, and she'd be like, you need to go on Twitch or, like, do a gig or something.
Do something!
Just be a performer
Stop talking to the saucepans.
Not while we're making a steak and ale pie. So there was that. And then also I would do it in the morning, so it's like, it sounds really bleak, doesn't it? But it was literally a reason to get out of bed, which is really important. So yeah, we sort of got a bit, and also we were very lucky, like working from home and stuff.
The speed that like our creative industry adapted, I found quite fascinating. You know, everyone was switching to Zoom, doing, you know, live things, interviews, podcasts. Was it there that your crime podcast was
We
born?
actually done that long after lockdown, because I was doing Twitch. We sort of, I didn't do a podcast, and there's a bit of me that thinks, oh, maybe we should have done something in that time that was sort of podcast related. Lots of my friends done podcasts, and they had so much fun making them. But yeah, no, that was after. But we sort of didn't. We don't really work together all that much. Like even in Love Island, we weren't really in a room together working. We're doing very different jobs. So like in lockdown we sort of didn't do any. I think as well with lockdown, I think the thought of working with someone that you were living with in lockdown seems a bit mad, because it was obviously, it's nice to get a bit of downtime. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, no, we didn't do it in lockdown. Maybe we should have done. But we love doing that, like those podcasts and stuff now. Like it's so much fun.
Partners in crime. So how do you go about working together and living together?
Well, it's sort of like we've been together for so long now. We've also been through so much. It's really easy, actually. It came really naturally. We just got into this sort of habit of doing it, and like do you know, the main thing is genuinely, it's like it sounds really daft, like we really enjoy doing it, and actually we really enjoy that it's true crime. We're sort of not doing that thing where we do a podcast where we like talk about like what it's like to be a couple or whatever. I feel like that's really been done and done well by other people, and we are still quite private people, so we don't really want to talk about our private situation too much. So like, true crime's sort of perfect, because that is what we used to do with our time is we'd sit and watch Netflix documentaries or true crime, listen to true crime podcasts and all that. So it just feels an extension of the conversations we would normally be having anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we literally would be sitting talking about true crime in our house, and then we end up doing that and recording it.
So what's next then for Iain?
Well, I'm going to look into buying an MG.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that for free, if I can afford one. And just do more stand-up, really. Me and Laura are going to hopefully look into doing more true crime podcasts after taking a bit of time. When we had children and stuff, I took a bit of time off the evenings, so I'm now just slowly getting back into gigging and building up new material and writing a new show, and I'll go on tour in 2024. That'll be the plan, and be in front of audiences again.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah, and I always think, I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore, and then I get in front of an audience, I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually what I was cut out for this sort of thing. This is what I was born to do, really. So it's nice.
How has it been going to your London haunts?
Do you know what? It's been really lovely, actually, especially Shepherd's Bush, because Shepherd's Bush was a sort of drinking hole, so to speak, for me. And then you sort of just see it as a sort of night out thing, but then you go back and you think, oh yeah, that was actually really rather important to my development. I met so many lovely people there, and also BBC, I go there, I still fortunately go there quite a lot, but it's nice talking about it in its former glories before it had private members clubs and hotels attached to it, when it was just a car park in some asbestos-laden buildings. That's when it was in, and ironically, that's when a lot of people think it was in its heyday. So yeah, it was nice. It's nice to have a little trip down memory lane, and it's also funny doing it in a car that my dad drove around when he was probably my age, if you know what I mean. So that's funny as well. It's been lovely. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you too. Is your pop still with us?
Yes, he is.
Will he?
I've sent him a picture already. I'll need to tell you what he says when he.
Yeah.
Nice car. He's saying nice car. Thank you. It's not mine. Okay.
There we go.
Thank you very much for the lift. I mean, practically to my front door. I very much appreciate it. And I love it. And also Gladstone Park in the sun. You don't get much better than that, really.
No, it's great, isn't it? Finishing up here.
Well, there you go. I'm going to go and have a frolic, which is what I believe people do when it's sunny.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. It was fun.
Anytime.
Thanks so much to Iain Stirling for taking me on a personalised tour around his old haunts in London. You can see exclusive footage of the drive by heading to the Auto Trader socials. Look at the episode page for links. You'll also be able to see the electric MGB GT that we had such a fun drive in. Plus, we're giving away a brand new electric car for free every single month as part of the Auto Trader electric car giveaway. Find out what we're giving away this month by heading to the episode page. And if you're looking for a new vehicle, you can find your perfect match at autotrader.co.uk. This is a new show, and I'd love you to follow on your favourite podcast platform. Like what you hear? Rate and review, and make sure you tell your friends so you don't miss an episode. Show on the Road is a fresh air production for Auto Trader. The executive producer is Annie Day, and the producer is Ollie Seymour.